That's right. She knows what it means to be a girl. She knows by instinct that the best thing for a girl is to get married and become someone's wife. And until then, no, even after she's married, she'll remain graceful and polite. Men have dreams that women will never be able to understand. Time stopped and everything around me turned transparent. This tenth of a second felt like 10 seconds, and I quickly looked forward. A couple of seconds later, I turned around again. She and I had the exact same frequency. You're so beautiful. It's only because I'm so in love. No, it's because I'm so in love with you. If we call Azuki, maybe she'll come down here and do the laundry, clean and cook for us. She could wear a maid outfit and be our residential maid. What do you think? First thing Azuki wrote for me on her notebook was her email address. I had mixed feelings about it rather than simply being happy, but I quickly memorized it. I'll support you. Anyone who would reject that dream of yours is a person with no dream. Female readers would like it too, if the angel was attractive. I won't feel better until I beat the living daylights out of that woman. They're animals, and I slaughtered them like animals. I hate them.
I feel like you guys have done something like that before.
Have we? Shut up, bird.
It's just not that funny.
Bakuman is a manga series written by, drawn by Takeshi Obata, and it was serialized in Weekly Shonen Jump from 2008 to 2012. The story takes place in Japan and follows two middle school boys, Moritaka Mashiro and Akito Takagi. Now, Takagi has always dreamed of becoming a writer, specifically a manga writer, but his art is shit, so what's he gonna do? He's gonna sit in the back of the class and spy on Mr. Mashiro, who is creepily drawing pictures of the girl that he has a crush on, Azuki. When Takagi analyzes these pictures, he realizes that Mashiro has a real talent for art, so he recruits him to make manga with him. Now, Mashiro, he's a bit reluctant to this idea, as his uncle used to be a mangaka working for Weekly Shonen Jump. He had a big popular series once that got an anime and everything, but after that, he struggled to create another hit, and then he tragically passed away, leaving his dreams unfulfilled. But after Mashiro finds out that Azuki, the girl he has the hots for, dreams to become a famous voice actress one day, he decides, hey, how cool would it be if I teamed up with Takagi, made a manga, it got animated, and Azuki could play the main character? Doesn't that sound great? Takagi pushes Mashiro to tell Azuki their plan, and this is when they learn that Azuki has actually been in love with Mashiro as well. So Mashiro decides to do the normal thing and asks for her hand in marriage on the condition that they do not see each other until both of their dreams come true. So she agrees, and they go off, and yeah, that's that. So now Mashiro and Takagi need to work together, put their skills to the test, and create a manga worthy of being one of the best that Japan has ever seen. They spend the whole summer working on their first one-shot and take it down to the Weekly Shonen Jump editorial offices, and from there we are presented with quite a wild journey. Yes, Bakuman is a series about manga, and making manga, and the business of manga. From the first sparks of creativity that Mashiro and Takagi have, we follow the entire process of what it means to create a hit manga, and all of the triumphs and defeats that come along with it. Because yes, it's not easy. This is a very cutthroat business. Just getting your foot in the door is hard enough, but then actually getting serialized is even harder. Because many people can draw and write stories, but very few have what it takes to become a weekly mangaka. And while Mashiro and Takagi are very confident and super determined, they aren't the only ones. Will all of these new rookies get in the way of Mashiro and Takagi rising to the top? Will the content of the manga they create be suitable to adapt into an anime for Azuki to star in? Will those damn women ever shut up? This is Bakuman, and it's one of the most frustrating things I've ever read. So we kind of just jumped into this. I need to give a bit of background here, a bit of history. If you've been with me for a very long time, or if you've looked through, my past catalog of videos, you might be familiar with this. This is a video I made in 2015, over 6 years ago. I was 17 years old. I was very inexperienced. I was a silly goose, okay? Yes, much like this video, this was a review of Bakuman. And it kind of stank. To make a long story short, I gave it a 10 out of 10, okay? This was one of my favorite series for a long time. But as the years went on, I started to look back at it with a bit of a different lens, and I kind of questioned why I used to rate it so highly. So this year now, I finally took the time to reread it all. And unfortunately, not only was it worse than I remembered like I suspected, it kind of felt like I was reading something completely different from I remembered. So I wanted to make this video mainly because, like, I don't agree with this at all anymore. And I guess also just to document how fucking weird of an experience reading Bakuman again was. Now, I want to first start off by going over the good, because Bakuman, despite, what I've been going on about on Twitter and stuff, does have a lot to like about it, and there are a lot of very good elements. From the first time Mashiro and Takagi submit their work into Shonen Jump, we are just shown it all. From the beginning of the creative process, creating characters, coming up with story ideas, analyzing different genres, consuming media to look for inspiration, storyboarding, rough sketches, inking, manga magazines, one-shots, assistants, series getting cancelled, series becoming massive hits, the ungodly huge burden and stress of it all, and of course the rivalries that form between the fellow mangaka. This is a massive series, and it spans many, many years. It really takes you on a deep dive through this industry, showing you all of the inner workings, and most of this stuff is really, really great. Now, it's worth noting, this is not a realistic portrayal of Weekly Shonen Jump, which is unfortunately what I think a lot of people have taken away from Bakuman. Just, I am constantly always seeing comments online of people like, hey, yo, this is how this works, I've read Bakuman. Shut the fuck up. And, it does, take place in Shonen Jump. Most of this stuff is based on real things that happen. This is very much a romanticized version of it all. So that's definitely something to keep in mind while reading. Oba has a really strong attention to detail when it comes to documenting the creation of manga, and throughout the series we get to see dozens of manga come into existence. There are a lot of creative stories within stories here, and a lot of times just seeing the characters come up with these is pretty damn cool. And different conflicts involving the manga industry are always showing up, always getting thrown into the mix. There really is never a dull moment in Bakuman. And the main reason for that, I find, is an extremely great pace throughout the entire thing. It's a series that constantly teases you with results and then immediately gives them to you. A lot of time passes in Bakuman, so it's very often that, we're just skipping ahead weeks and months all the time. And it works so well because it's just always hitting you with new stuff, always giving you new reveals. The series revolves heavily around the Shonen Jump ranking system, where of course readers vote for their favorite series each week, and they go to the editors and the artists. And depending on the ratings, they have to know, should we keep doing what we're doing? Should we change something to appeal to a broader audience? And whenever they make decisions like that, whenever we get new rankings in, the series just keeps going. It makes it a really addicting read, very engaging at times. And this great pace is something that I think Bakuman holds throughout the entire series. Now, it is a very long series. It is very dense and very wordy, and that can turn some people off and make it slow for some people, but it didn't really for me, just because, of how fast everything was moving, which is something I somewhat appreciated when the story was being kind of terrible. So yes, while there is a lot to like in Bakuman's story, it is extremely wildly inconsistent. In fact, I think Bakuman has some downright terrible parts. Let's get into that a bit. So the series is constantly, like I mentioned, introducing new conflicts that arise. Some of them are very creative, things you never think about. They cover a lot of themes, within the manga industry and outside of it. And while sometimes it works, a lot of times it really doesn't. There's one arc where they decide to tackle overwork, which is, of course, a huge problem within the manga industry, and I thought the way they went about it, while it started off fine, it quickly became, what I felt to be kind of horrible. It was a very confusing message, and it didn't come across sympathetic to mangaka who struggle with overwork at all, which was kind of weird. Another arc involves a dog. That is all I am going to say. This felt like a completely pointless fork in the road to create conflict and drama, and the things that happen in it are never really made important again, which feels like one of the many moments in Bakuman that didn't need to be there. At one point, they decide to introduce a maniacal, mustache-twirling evil villain, and he derails the story in such an insane way that I truly couldn't believe it. It honestly felt like the series had shifted into fantasy for a while. But of course, there is the one other major aspect of Bakuman that I have yet to really discuss. Bakuman is not really what I would call a romance series, however, it definitely does play a huge role in it. Obviously with, Mashiro's main motivation being he gets to marry Azuki when all of this is over. Now, there are actually a lot of different romantic side plots in Bakuman. It's not just Mashiro and Azuki. None of them are good, though. They're all pretty stinky poop sauce, if I'm being honest. Pretty much every time romance was the subject of the things going on, it was agonizing. It was truly a chore. And that's why I commend the pace so much, because whenever I got to one of these moments, I at least knew that while it might be painful, I could just power through it and it'll be over in a jiffy. But you see, the problem here is that there aren't really any major arcs focused on romance. It's kind of just all spread out throughout the entire manga. But when there are longer parts that just focus on romantic elements and romantic drama, it's probably some of the worst stuff I've ever read from Oba. And when it's just so integral to the story, it really makes it hard to connect with a lot of what's going on and actually care about it. This all culminates in an ending which I just felt nothing during. I felt nothing. The frustrating thing is I know what this series can be, how great it can be, because there's actually an arc near the end of the series that only focuses on the manga. It only focuses on the creative process and the rivalry. There is no bullshit in it at all, and it is great. It is easily the best part of the series. And aside from another one in the middle of the series, there are very few moments of Bakuman that are like that. It's usually just a mix of good and bad, which really bogs it down. Now, obviously, I would like to elaborate on what's so bad about the romance. I'm going to do that in the character section, but right before that, I just wanted to, address the elephant in the room. Christopher Butcher reviewed Volume 1 of Bakuman, and he had reservations about recommending it because it was, and I quote, horribly sexist. Was he right? Is Bakuman horribly sexist? Yes. As Bakuman has this very weird vibe throughout the whole thing involving the female characters, where they are constantly being talked down to, ignored, and most of their purposes in the story are just to be love interests, and not very good ones at that. And now, this isn't like a huge problem. I mean, a lot of manga have this problem. But what really makes it stand out so much here is because of the blatantly sexist dialogue that we get near the start of the series. It does calm down quite a bit as it goes on, but I mean, some of the stuff we're presented with right at the beginning does not paint a good picture for what Oba thinks about certain things. What makes it bad, though, is how this stuff is accepted. Like, I feel like if someone were to say this in like any other story, it would be wrong, and it would be, ridiculed and lambasted, because it is. Like, what the fuck? This type of stuff is just seen as a normal thing, and it's constantly happening throughout the series. Not just of things that are sexist, but often characters are just doing horrible things, and there's no consequences. People are just like, hey, that's normal, let's go. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's get into this shit. Mashiro and Takagi are both characters that exist. When it comes to the creative side of this story, I think they are really fun to watch. Mashiro is a very talented artist, and Takagi a very smart and talented writer. Seeing them navigate throughout the manga industry and learning new techniques, forging new rivalries, it's all admittedly pretty fun stuff to read. But things are a bit different when it comes to the world outside of manga. Mashiro comes across as kind of a dumb fuck, like really, really dumb. Case in point, his romance with Azuki. The two of them are not well. They make this promise to not see each other. Like, they're both madly in love with each other, but they decide to not see each other until their dreams come true. Because why? What they do is extremely stupid. The characters call them out for it, and they never accept it. This is all just seen as some cutesy romance thing, but in fact, it makes it almost impossible to connect with these characters and their relationship. Because the whole point is that they don't talk to each other. Like, at all. They like text each other Merry Christmas and shit every year. But that's about it. These two characters, while we are constantly told, oh, they're on the same wavelength and oh, it was love at first sight, just don't feel like they're in love. Because everything they do kind of contradicts it. There are times where they come close to, breaking this promise with, drama happening and all some crazy shit going on. Like I mentioned, there are things Mashiro says and does to her that are kind of horrible and would make me want to dump his ass immediately, but he never faces any consequences for it. Azuki never gets mad at him for anything. She's just a complete blank slate character whose only personality trait is that she is madly in love with Mashiro. Yes, they do not flesh out Azuki in the slightest, at all. Like, at all. There is nothing about her character that makes her any more than that. Which again just adds to this main romance not feeling like anything. So when it's constantly being brought up over and over again, all this shit about, oh, we gotta follow our dreams, oh, we're so in love with each other, when they never see each other and barely talk to each other, oh my god! And yeah, their dialogue is quite terrible and cringy. It's definitely prequel level. It might not be like quite bad, I'm in your very soul type shit, but it's rough. Takagi has a girlfriend too. This is Miyoshi. Miyoshi is Takagi and Mashiro's slave. She cooks for them, she cleans for them, she does most of the research for their manga by watching and reading stuff and taking notes for Takagi. She goes above and beyond for them every single time, and what does she get to show for it? Well, nothing. Yes, Takagi is a very terrible boyfriend, and if he is a good boyfriend in all the parts that, Bakuman skips over, they don't do a good job showing it. He does not seem very affectionate to her, he deliberately constantly hides things from her, and overall he just comes across like someone who doesn't eat pussy. And it made me feel very bad for her, especially during times when Takagi honestly does some pretty horrible things, which he is never once at fault for. Probably my least favorite moment in the series comes from when he deliberately keeps certain information from Miyoshi for literally no reason, and then they have this huge falling out, and the whole time he's like, she should trust me more, she needs to apologize for me, she's being stupid. And you're thinking, okay, Takagi's obviously the villain here. But no! Like, when this stuff happens, the characters are never called out for it, never face consequences for it, and it makes it such an infuriating read. Now, Miyoshi's not a very good character either. She's still very one-note and, doesn't really develop at all. But still, I mean, Jesus, give this poor girl a break. Alright, how about we talk about something good for a change? Eiji Nizuma. This is Takagi and Mashiro's rival. They first meet him very early on in the series. He is another very young rookie who starts making waves in the world of Shonen Jump, and their rivalry with him was probably the best part of the series. Now, at first, he comes across as kind of a prick, but as you get to know him more, as he starts to do more interesting things, I honestly really started to love this guy. I thought he was a great presence, he had a ton of energy, and was really fun to follow. I honestly wish he would he would have been the main character instead. But I also found him to be heavily implied to be on the autism spectrum, which I also thought was a really cool idea because you don't often see autistic characters in manga. And yeah, just all around a great dude. He was probably the only character who I didn't have any problems with at all. I thought he was sick. And there are a bunch of other rookies that we get introduced to serve as rivals. You have Fukuda, who's a really hot-headed, loud, angry guy, but he was also really fun and stole every scene he was in. He doesn't have much growth throughout the series, but he's only a minor character, so whatever. Hiramaru is an exceptional character for the most part. His whole dynamic is super unique. He's essentially a guy who was never a fan of manga before in his life. He never even read manga. He just decided one day to pick up a pen and start drawing, and all of a sudden he's a fucking genius. But the problem is he doesn't like working, so his editor is always trying these schemes to, you know, coerce him into keep drawing more manga. I thought this guy was hilarious. He was probably the main comic relief in the series, and I really, really enjoyed every aspect about him until we get into some drama with Mr. Nakai. Now, Nakai is another manga artist who shows up, and he is my least favorite character in the series, and he definitely is meant to be an unlikable person, but the way his arc resolves I found to be kind of baffling, and Hiramaru's part in it also really shocked me, and it made me lose a lot of respect for him, which was quite unfortunate. There's also Iwase and Aoki, who are two female mangaka, who, yeah, their characters are something. They are mainly used as love interests throughout the series, which was very unfortunate because I did think they had a lot of things going for them, but I don't know, there's not really much else to say about them. Then you have, like, the fucking villains, Kugi, fucking dumb, and the other guy I mentioned, who is just a disaster of a character, honestly, and the way they resolve, like, the villain arcs are so stupid. I don't even know how, like, this happened. Then you also have a bunch of editors, the staff at Weekly Shonen Jump, and I thought a lot of these guys were really, really enjoyable, because you never really get to see this side of the manga industry, what it's like to be an editor. And again, while this, you know, is a fictional story and not really based on real life, there are a lot of characters here who are actually based on real life people, and I thought that they added a lot to the story. Hattori is Mashiro and Takagi's main editor when they joined Jump, and he was a really, really interesting character. He gave them a lot of really cool advice, and the way he worked with them to improve their manga was always something I looked forward to. I also really liked the editor-in-chief of Shonen Jump, Sasaki, who is a real person. There's a new editor now, but he was the editor while Bakuman was running. And yeah, they were just a really fascinating bunch of people. Miura was the one I didn't like, though. I found him to be quite annoying, and I think a lot of readers did too, because you know, one of the popularity polls, he got, like, almost dead last, and then, you know, afterwards his character was kind of phased out of the spotlight. So yeah, I'll give Oba that at least. Thank you, man. So yeah, I think that the cast of Bakuman overall is decent. They're pretty good. We got a lot of cool guys here with some cool personalities. They're fun to be around. I just think really the main problem is with Mashiro and Takagi. You know, when they weren't, you know, doing their manga thing, I just found them to not be very likable, not interesting. I didn't really care about what personal shit they were going through. But it is what it is, I suppose. Let's discuss the art. Now, I've praised Takeshi Obata countless times before. I think this guy is a fantastic artist, and here in Bakuman, it is no exception. When the art starts off, it's very much his classic style, reminiscent of Death Note, which they had just come off of when Bakuman started. I think he really excels with some of the character designs here. Characters like Takagi, Nizuma, even Mashiro, I guess, all really stand out. They really pop off the page. But unlike a lot of Obata's other works, this series has a bit of a lighter tone. It's very expressive. There's a lot of energy to it. And as the series progresses, we see the art style sort of shift to match it. It becomes a lot more loose and a lot more off-model, which some people could see as a negative. I personally never really minded this shift, and I do think it worked to the series' benefit during certain key scenes where, there's big reactions from people. It looked a lot more goofy and cartoony than it did at the start, but I was pretty fine with that. The guy's really talented. I said before how much dialogue is in this series, but I think it's usually laid out in such a way that works really well, doesn't get bogged down. It has good flow, there's good emphasis where there needs to be, and I have to say, one of the most interesting things about Bakuman, of course, is all of the different manga that are, being created throughout the series. And Obata has to sort of create a new style for each different mangaka character. While Mashiro's style is basically his style, and that's the one you see the most, the stuff Nizama makes is very distinct, the stuff Aoki makes is really distinct. He does a really good job setting all of these series apart and not making them feel the same. Although, what were you thinking of this, man? What is this? This was your masterpiece? So yeah, overall, not too shabby. I think he, would go on to improve his art even more. But yeah, Bakuman's a nice looking manga. It's got a lot of style, got a lot of pizzazz. Not much to complain about here. So those are my thoughts on Bakuman. Jesus Christ. I would usually go to my final verdict now, but I thought we would have a little bit of fun first.
Hey guys, welcome to my full series review for Bakuman.
Oh, okay, right off the bat, thank God this is one of my least viewed full series reviews. If this ended up blowing up like some of my others, I would not be able to forgive myself.
I know some of you have been waiting for this.
I know I barely care about my hair at all, but Jesus Christ, okay.
Looks inside and realizes, oh, this guy's a really good artist.
What was my style of humor? I hate 2015 so much.
This series has to be one of the best manga I have ever read.
I know I'd only been reading manga for like a year and a half at this point, but how the fuck?
It feels like I read like 100 volumes of stuff even though it's only 20.
That is true, unfortunately.
So one of the reasons the writing is so good is just how relatable and realistic this manga can sometimes be.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about? 17-year-old Gear did not speak to women. Oh my god.
Bakuman was actually very, very realistic.
Even the realistic parts of this manga aren't realistic. Jesus Christ.
None of it seemed, impossible.
There are absolutely impossible things that happen in this series. Shut the fuck up.
And the fact that this series covers so much time in these people's lives, it just makes the character arcs and all the things that happen so much better because we really see how much these people have grown.
No, we don't. We don't. They're the same fucking assholes. Oh my god.
It's just so much work, and like I said in this series, when all that work pays off, you just feel so good for these characters.
That is true. There are a lot of satisfying moments. I'll give myself that. Alright.
I swear to God, I actually cheered a couple times reading this series.
You fucking nerd, man. What the...
The ending actually made me cry.
Why? Like I said, I felt absolutely nothing during this ending. I mean, I don't know if just I've grown into a heartless piece of shit, but dude, how? It's such a bad
It's one of those series that, didn't have to end. It could have technically kept going.
It should have ended earlier. There's so much bullshit they could have just cut out. The series could have been great. Fuck.
I can remember every single one of those characters and what every single person was like and everything that happened to them. That is how you know the series is just excellent.
You just read it. Of course you will. I didn't remember any of this shit when I reread it here.
If there's one character that I really just didn't like how he turned out, it's Nakai.
Based! Finally a good take from Young Gear here. Fuck Nakai.
And I kind of wish that, he had gotten more redemption.
No! Why would you wish that? Oh my god.
And it's just crazy. Some of those other covers are even... this guy's manga.
You see that? You see that black screen there? That was an old rendering bug I used to have on my old shitty laptop. That was a throwback. Oh, good lord. It's in a lot of my older videos, especially the longer ones. Don't watch them though, please.
Did Takeshi Obata actually make them naturally age within this manga?
That's not what happens, you fucking idiot. That's just the style changing. Obata didn't, make them age every week, and
If you haven't guessed already, my final score is 5.
Oh, wow. We have the same score. How about it? So yeah, guys, at the end of the day, Bakuman was not the series that I used to think it was. There's a lot of great elements to it, a lot of really creative stuff I really enjoyed, but it also has a lot of just really bad and frustrating elements that really bring it down. And when all of it was said and done, I don't really know if it was worth it. I know Bakuman's a really popular series with lots of fans, and you know, if you still enjoy Bakuman, if you still love Bakuman, fucking sick, okay? I, as we just saw, also used to love this series. And while it does have problematic elements that are very hard for me to ignore, I obviously once did. So other people will be able to as well. I don't know, I just think revisiting this, well, I didn't enjoy it all that much. I thought it was a pretty fascinating experience, because it really shows you how someone's taste can evolve. For better or worse, I don't know, it's up to you guys. And I'm looking forward to checking out a few other manga in my collection that I've not read for years. If you are still interested in checking Bakuman out, Viz has released the whole series in English, and there is a sexy little box set available, which is definitely the best way to own the series. You can also read the entire thing on the Shonen Jump app. An anime series was created that was 75 episodes long. It was very long, but there is a lot of story, so it makes sense. And while I've never seen this adaptation, I have heard it is very faithful. They also made a movie. Good for them, I guess. It's hard to recommend other series because there's nothing I've read that's really quite like Bakuman. Read Full Metal Alchemist instead. How about that? Why did I come up with that? I don't know. Everyone loves Full Metal Alchemist. It's Full Metal... Alright, I am going to go to bed now. Thank you all so much for watching. You can leave your thoughts on the comments down below. I'm sure it will be really fun down there. And I'll see you guys in the next video.
Yeah, you should buy it now. Like, you should be adding it to your cart and placing your order.
Your mom and dad are doing fine. You guys are